Thank you. So I'm Brena Collyer. I'm from Brazil, and we are joined by Luciana de Lima, who is also out from this work, just so she can say hello as well.
Hello everyone. Good afternoon.
And I think I need to say this. It's going to be a bit of Portuguese and English going on here. But yeah, so I'm presenting the Tecnodocência in Undergraduate Initial Teacher Education and Methodological Innovation and Authorship. This is work that is implemented in Brazil, in the Office of Brazil, where I'm from, where Luciana is from as well. And it's the... Okay, yes, right. Just to say that I've started my career then. I was lucky to be able to join the project in research and the lab, and they had very strong the pedagogy bug. Before I was always science computing and didn't want to do anything with pedagogy, but they are amazing. I'm really lucky to be part of their work. So I think, I started putting that there because I'm aware that initial teacher education in Brazil is different, or can be different to how we train teachers around the world. So this is a specific context in Brazil, where it was identified that when the teachers were trained in their undergraduate courses, they had a fragmented curricula where the specific knowledge and the pedagogy and the digital technologies were always taught like fragmented in different disciplines, which then made that the teachers in training had contact with technology much more from the perspective of is used to present content. They were not used or promoted to learn and use all the capacities that technology can bring to the teaching practice, which then, of course, the impact would go all the way to when they apply the teaching on basic education in Brazil. So what is not proposed because it's already in practice for many years is the research that's again is implemented at the Federal University of Ceará in Brazil, where this concept that was created by Luciana and Robson, who is also part of the project, is implemented in the undergraduate courses who train teachers for basic education in Brazil. And it brings these both ways, like the theory and practical dimensions of pedagogy, digital education, and interdisciplinarity, trying to bring a broader understanding, a better way to understand the relationship between pedagogy and the digital technologies. So I'm sitting very nervous now. So I think it's good I kept the concept in Portuguese because just to get an idea or to make it clear that this is what they created there and they implemented there. But what is Tecnodocência? So Tecnodocência is the integration between teaching and digital information and communication technologies grounded in epistemological basis informed by inter- and transdisciplinary models that use the prior knowledge from the undergraduate students who are going through the teacher training and the students itself, supporting that critical reflection and integration between teaching, learning, and assessment. Where is implemented, as I said. So this concept leads an optional module that runs across 14 undergraduate programs, which includes like history, maths, and language, Portuguese, English as well. And it has been running at the university since 2013, every semester, with an average cohort of 30 students. They also offer, for better flexibility, they offer the on-campus version and the online version as well. Students who, the undergraduate students who attend that module, they go through this learning journey that's divided into 3 stages. So at the first stage, they go and try to develop what is the maths. That is what's the translation? But basically, the authorial digital education materials they create themselves from a very active point of learning to use into in their teaching practice. Those maths are intensively. So usually we have groups of students from different areas who would work together to plan those digital materials, who can be games, videos, and audios, from an interdisciplinar base. My brain either works in Portuguese or in English. And they go through this, like it said, it's a very interactive and iterative process. So they get together, they create the idea, and then they plan, they implement, they develop the resource itself, they reflect, they also peer review, and then they evaluate, and they could go back and improve the material if needed. So that's stage one. Usually it requires a more face-to-face element because they would use the lab who has all the technology for them to create that. Then they would move into stage two, which is based on the math. They will plan the lesson plan, the interdisciplinary lesson plan, where they will apply those maths at the public schools in Brazil. It's important to flag that, the technical docência doesn't suggest an active approach to a passive approach. The lesson plan also requires that the students at the public school would need to have an active role in developing something and creating and being out of themselves. Once the lesson plan was designed, then we go to stage three, where it's the real application of whatever was, the lesson and the digital resource into the public schools, where, like I said, the students there would also learn through doing. These are a couple of examples of the resources that the students created. The first one, and I needed to make a note of this. See? I'm about to say something. So the first one is a quiz and was created by undergraduate students from music and Portuguese. And the second one is a game book made in twine that involved students from biology, geography, and PE. And the resource itself, like I said, has interdisciplinary as their base, and they created the resource themselves. This is an example of the lesson plan. It's all in Portuguese, as you can see. But it's just to say that because it's a new concept in the methodology, so the lesson plan was also designed specifically for the implementation of this approach. The students will need to pick like the method, within the principles of technodocência. They will need to pick the themes. As you can see, we have English, history, mathematics, and chemistry, to try from the beginning to plan the lesson on that approach. What else? Examples of the implementation in the classroom. We have the authorization for the emails. These are the students, but you can see because they are on the training, they are the related students. These are the teachers, but you can't really differentiate them in the photos themselves. Yeah. So the research, we had 120 participants across 14 undergraduate programs from 2024 and 2025 cohorts, where it was used initial questionnaire and the final questionnaire to gather basically the understanding of the concept, and if they could see that difference or that fragmentation by understanding technodocência. And also, in terms of understanding where they were in the process of understanding. Did they change the way they understood the integration between technologies and pedagogy, or did they continue with the same understanding as before? So these are the results. So 0.4% of the students defined, at the beginning that was still fragmented. So teaching wasn't connected to technology. They were still two separate things, which, proves like a misunderstanding about what we were trying to propose with, the module itself. But in the end, 87% defined as an integration, and they recognize that integrating those two could increase the interaction between themselves and the students in the classroom, but also support a more learning. I think, so just on this one, I think what we were trying to prove here is that instead of putting the students in the place where everything is fragmented and they would end up to go to that practice, replicating that same level of understanding by getting them while they're being trained and interconnecting, and making them to create using technology, to create their own resources and think and apply technology from a more author or from active place. It would also enable that impact would go to the schools and they won't continue just passing information as, traditional teacher training. So I think there is, like I was flagging, the importance of having students, undergraduate students, again, in the context of Brazil, having the space for creating their own resources, but also, their learning, and practicing with the idea that they can auto their own practice, reflecting. I just said everything. But yeah, and then the idea of collaboration as well, because we are putting students from different, teacher trainings, specific areas, who can make the relationship between their specific knowledge as well as their specific context. And in the end, they will have a product that, they should be proud of, and be able to share. So in terms of outputs, the research has been running since 2013, if I'm not wrong, if I'm not mistaken. So we have already proposed a didactic sequence, which is freely available online, which shows like the step-by-step guidance on how can you implement these. You can adapt for different contexts and different kind of language as well. And we are developing the distance learning courses for trying to bring that concept in other similar teacher training environments. These are some kind of recommendations because, again, going back, I know this is very specific to the context in Brazil, which probably we have similar contexts in other countries, but, I think the idea is that we should be training teachers for basic education, where we allow the space to combine the theory and the practice as well, and the self-reflection and that connection between those elements, but also encourage, creativity and authorship. It's difficult to think about interdisciplinary practice, and when we approach them again from the beginning while they've been trained and putting them together, it makes it easier to experience that sort of creation. And again, recognizing the specific context of Brazil, in public schools, we do have upper secondary public schools, we have elective disciplines, which then enable that kind of innovative methodology, and you can play with that more. So we don't need to be very restrictive on those specific disciplines. It has been the methodology and the concept wide, award in Brazil for, this was just awards that got in 2024, but like I said, it's a very long research and it keep growing. If you want to know more, they have a book, website, a YouTube channel, they have a podcast. It's all in Portuguese, but if you didn't notice, I mentioned just a couple of times, and they have an Instagram as well, which they kind of share some prompts, to bring that thinking. This is the team. So Luciana, Hobson, me. I'm not that, but I'm here. Yeah, and the kind of the interns we have and the people supporting. That's the email of the project as well. Yeah. So reference, but time for questions.